the scene through glass. Welcome back to the Mercedes E63S AMG. I've spent about 3 days with this car now, and I feel like I understand it a little better than when Tony and I reviewed it earlier in the week. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty and share my thoughts on this car, I'm going to indulge in all things Ferrari. I'm currently headed down to AV Engineering because they've been doing the annual service on my 360, and I need to film an update on that whole process. I'm then going to pop along to Simon Furlonger because they are specialists in all things Ferrari and they always have cool cars hanging around, so I'm going to catch up with them and show you what they have in stock, and then I'll get into the E63, drive back to London and let you know my thoughts on this car. The guys down here at AV always know how to look after me. They give me a double espresso in a Ferrari mug. Anyway, you might be able to see that my car is currently in Bay 1, prime position. I'm actually going to be doing a separate video on the whole servicing process of this car because unfortunately there's a lot more to tell you about it than I thought there would be. So yes, another video coming on the 360 servicing, but there's always juicy bits to look at down here. And in fact, at the back of the room, we have two very interesting cars for any would-be Ferrari owners. A 360 Modena with a challenge grille that has a manual gearbox, right next to a F430 with the F1 gearbox. Both cars just under 80 grand. A steal, I think, and you know, very different. Lots of you always ask, why didn't I get a 430 instead of a 360? But my preference has always been for the 360 because that was the car I kind of grew up with. But yeah, pretty awesome. Good to see here. Lots of other nice stuff floating around. I'm going to continue to enjoy my coffee and then get filming the update or the service review video on my car. I have to say, every time I go to AV Engineering, I feel like I learn something new about my car. Mainly that it's broken. But anyway, full update video on that whole servicing thing coming soon. Now I'm going to head to Simon Furlonger because it's a beautiful day and they've got lots more Ferraris for me to ogle at. So yeah, time to power up the beast and go find me some more Ferraris in a Mercedes. Yeah. Long-term viewers of the channel will probably recognise Simon Furlonger from the many videos I've filmed down here previously. If you haven't seen any of them, I'll put some links to some below. But as you can see behind me, they always have insane cars hanging around. So I thought, considering I was going to be 10 minutes down the road checking out the 360, I might as well pop down here and see what cars they had in stock. And I haven't been disappointed because look, GTOs, two GTO 599 GTOs. How stunning do these look? I'm a massive fan of 599 GTOs, and on the left, on the left, I don't know why I can't really speak today, but on the left we have got a Rosso Foco GTO. This is my favourite Ferrari red, a sort of triple layered red. On the right, I think that's Rosso Scuderia. That's a left-hand drive car. That's a right-hand drive car. Oh, and ooh, an E63. Matey, you've got a friend. Look at that. There's a 360 challenge for Dali. Lots of you have been suggesting, why don't I take a Ferrari FF on the Drive the World trip? Now, it was actually a consideration at one point, but when I was thinking about it, I called Matthew down here at Simon Furlonger to ask his advice, and he did say that with that kind of mileage on that kind of trip, maybe the FF wasn't the best choice, because whilst they are incredibly practical and relatively reliable, when they do run into problems, they run into big problems, and the last thing I wanted to do was get stranded in a Ferrari in the middle of God knows where with no ways to fix it. Also, it's a Ferrari. I mean, like, the expense, the cost, the fact it does about 3 mpg, it would have been cool, but very, very unrealistic and impractical. So yeah, FF's not happening, but very nice all black one lurking back here. I've now snuck inside the showroom here at Furlonger because you can see they keep some of the really special stuff back here. We've got a Ferrari 250 Lusso, a 275 GTB, a Maserati, I think it's a 450S recreation. Not seen something like that before, looks absolutely mega. This F12 has got a brown interior. brown. Very interesting, but loads of nice bits hanging around. That 512 BB in the corner, it's one owner from new. It basically looks like it rolled out of the factory. It's still got some plastic inside of it. Got this crazy Jag Le Mans car. EB110, who might remember the video where I actually drove that thing? I drove that. Nuts. Well worth the visit coming down here, for sure.
This is all a bit boring, though.
How can you say this is boring?
The guy's
I don't know if I got that on camera, but you just slagged off an E63, mate.
No, it's boring.
And it's an S. You know I'm driving one of those today.
This is that's done 6,000 miles.
6,000 miles?
9, yeah. This
Wow.
guy doesn't even see it.
That's crazy. Oh, mate.
I'm not sure about carbon tips.
This is, carbon tips. This is awesome. You know I would have an Enzo over a lap any day.
Well,
Am I mad?
no, I would.
I think this is
What about the battery?
This is super cool, dude.
You got a PFS having a steering box rebuild.
Oh, that's nice.
It's nice. That's I lived in Texas. It's got like literally its whole life, and it's got like a little Texas thing in it.
Oh yeah, okay, nice.
Proper immaculate.
It's a proper gangster car, this. What is that?
It's a 40.
No, the yellow thing.
Oh god, I'm not sure I should tell you about this. So that is a Koenig F48.
But what is it based on?
A 348 TS.
Oh no.
Oh no, this is going to be really hard to get next to an F40.
I know, but that's why I was like, it's not an F40. I mean,
So
you know,
if you have a linen suit and you want to be back in the 90s,
I
have a
kind
look
of
at that
do.
boost gauge. That's if you
Oh,
can have a boost
wow.
all manufacturers, if you want a boost gauge, that's how it should be done.
That is, yeah.
So
Wow,
it's
this thing
it's
is
600 horsepower.
600 horsepower. Look at the engine cover. So a turbo 348 essentially.
Did you know it's a turbo? You've noticed that? And so these brakes, I mean, whether this is true or not, supposedly these are the first ever carbon ceramic brakes ever made, but I don't know how true that is.
Really? Yeah, I'm not sure that's that true either, but
Well-
it's a good marketing technique. Surely they would have had F1 on a road car.
Road car, not in the history of brakes. Yeah.
So,
Like Ferrari couldn't come up with it, but Koenig did.
this is very cool. I saw this at Best of Italy a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and
This
that's
is super cool.
we're trying to tour auto.
Yeah, that'll be mega. And then is that an LP640 up there?
No, it's
just a
an early
Mercedes.
manual one,
Oh, okay.
which has got lots of bits of tape on
I
it.
think this is how we're going to see Paul Wallace's car most of the time, but
No, that's not fair.
mate. Oh, and you've got a DeLorean. That's just chilling.
Yeah, can you cut that out?
Yes, I won't film that, but look at that Enzo. What a thing. Well, now that I've got my Ferrari fix, I can get back in this car and talk to you about a Mercedes instead. Quite cool that they had the old shape E63S down here at Furlongers. I hadn't really seen one of those for a while. Hold on, aircon's going to blast at me. Now that's one thing I'm going to say right off the box. To start with about this car is it's too clever for its own good. The tech in here really annoys me. I did mention it on the initial test drive video that I find it hard to navigate my way around the infotainment, but it does other things that just annoy me. The aircon is like just really aggressive aircon, and really frustratingly about the cruise control is it amends itself based on the speed limit it thinks that road has. Now I'm sure this is a setting that I can change, but for example, on the M25 here in the UK, we have a active, intelligent motorway. So whilst the limit on the motorway is 70 miles an hour, sometimes the signs can pop up saying 50 and you have to be at 50. So I set the cruise control to 50, but then the car goes, no mate, it's 70 here, you can speed up. No, it's 50, slow down. So it annoys me, little things like that. The biggest problem with this car though is the fuel. This car is more thirsty than any car I've ever owned, and that includes a McLaren and a Ferrari. I churn through fuel in this thing. I blink and it's gone. This week I've averaged less than 20 mpg, and I've done 2 big motorway drives. That is bad, because yes, I get it, it's a high performance vehicle, but this is still supposed to be a family car. It's an estate, it's in a wagon. It's supposed to be used, to ship your family around and stuff, and you cannot have a car that's supposed to be that practical be that bad on petrol. It makes no sense, and for me, unfortunately, it's why I have to discount it as a contender for the Drive the World trip, because I mean, I could go out there and get a Bentley, like a 911 or whatever, and have better fuel economy. So it's a shame, because the performance of this thing is nuts. Absolutely nuts. And you all know I'm not a massive RS6 fan. This, I think, just at the moment overshadows the previous generation RS6 so much. Would it compete against a Panamera Turbo? Probably. I mean, and it's cool, this thing. Like, it's the way it delivers its power is kind of like very AMG. The 4MATIC dials things down a little bit, but you still feel like it's wiggling around. The sound system in here is amazing. The seats are comfy. That's one thing to note, is this car's got the sort of comfort spec seats. You can have performance seats in here, which look really cool, but everyone says on long journeys gives a little bit of back pain. So yeah, a shame that this car isn't quite right, because it kind of feels like it should be the perfect car to take around the world, and lots of you have been commenting on Instagram saying this is the perfect car, but it's not. Also because the size, driving this thing around London, trying to park it in central London, trying to fit through small gaps, width restrictions. I live right next to a width restriction, so to get anywhere, usually I go through that width restriction, but in this car I've had to avoid it. I've been too nervous to take it on because this thing feels so big. Obviously you can do that and you forget about all the issues because it's just such absolutely demonic speed. But yeah, there's just... Weirdly, I've been talking to Archie Hamilton, as a few of you have picked up. Archie's had a nearly identically spec'd E63S at the same time as me, just weird coincidence that. But we both said it's a brilliant car, but there's just something that we don't gel with about it. Maybe we're at the wrong times in our lives. Maybe this is a car for somebody who is 10 or 20 years older than us. But yeah, neither of us have fallen in love with it. Maybe that's because we're spending most of the time in petrol stations looking at it rather than driving it. But anyway, a bit of a random daily vlog here. I just wanted to give you a sort of second update on this car, because I don't feel like I, said enough in the initial test drive. Anyway, great to see the 360 earlier. That video is coming very soon. Great to pop down to Simon Furlongers. I feel like I need to come down here and film some more stuff with them, because they always have such crazy cars. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Give it a thumbs up if you have, and make sure to subscribe for plenty more videos to come.